All right, everybody, we're back. Yeah, and we're back with all the answers that you need to know about the Diddy trial. Tonight, guess what? We're not sipping tea, we're drowning in it. This is Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. I'm your judge and host, Al Reynolds. And baby, tonight, we're putting the spotlight on one of the most shocking, salacious, and expensive celebrity trials in modern entertainment history. You know him as Puff Daddy. Some people know him as P. Diddy. Others know him as Brother Love. But guess what? The government knows him as Sean Combs, the defendant. Now listen, this is not just another celebrity scandal. This is a full-blown federal case featuring allegations of sex trafficking, RICO violations, witness intimidation, drug-fueled sex parties, yes, you heard me right, and an empire allegedly built on exploitation. And yes, guess what? The circus of corruption is costing you, the taxpayers. Early estimates put this trial public expense north of $25 million and counting. And for Diddy, with legal fees, PR damage control, settlements, and canceled business deals, he's looking at potential losses exceeding $150 million. Now, this is not only the trial of the century, not just because of charges, but because it rips the designer curtains off of the entertainment industry's darkest secrets. So let's get into it. This is a special edition of Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, Diddy on Trial. Now, I want to talk about our legal beagles for those who have joined us for the first time. Joining us first up, we have Shaitan Turner. Shaitan is known as the mother's gavel here on Celebrity Court. She practices civil law. She has gendered power dynamics, and she also is a victim advocate. She's sympathetic, she's poised, and she's maternal, but she's ready to, at any point, legally dissect anything that needs to be dissected. Shaitan says that she serves as the voice of women and mothers watching at home. With her corporate legal background and real-world perspective as a divorced mother of three, she brings humanity to the courtroom. All right, now, I'm going to be throwing to Shaitan tonight to discuss Cassie's testimony, her coercion, her single settlements, and her emotional impact. Shaitan, as a mother, as a woman, and a civil attorney, she's going to help us read between the legal lines in what exactly Cassie is describing. Joining her, we also have up tonight with us Jason Weiss. All right, he's the author of The Shit They Didn't Teach You in Law School, but here he's known as the legal realist. He practices constitutional law, strategic defense, and he's a due process advocate. He's methodical, he's balanced, but with a punch. He's grounded and logical, but will give you a piece of his mind. Jason will be the calm legal counterweight here. He will bring a strategic analysis on how the defense is framing its argument, what the court actually allows versus what the media sensationalizes, and when the law doesn't always match the public. All right, Jason is for this trial, what did Diddy do and how would the prosecution thread a legal needle or not? Next up, we have Sean Carter. He's known as the humor and hypocrisy slayer. All right, he's a legal satirist. He teaches ethics in law, and he's a jury psychologist. He's witty, sharp, unfiltered, but always legally grounded. Sean is the comedic scalpel here. He uses levity to ask the hard questions and also challenge moral and consistency. Let him call out the contradictions in public sentiment, and he pokes fun at the celebrity spin all the time, and he unpacks how, and we're going to ask him tonight to help us unpack really what the jury is thinking. He trains lawyers across the country, and tonight we're going to see if those defense lawyers that he once trained are turning it into legal beagles in the courtroom or running a PR strategy. Last two up, we have Brian Ross, sorry. We have Brian Ross. Brian Ross on the show is known as the closer. He's a criminal defense attorney. He's a father, and he's also very big on constitutional accountability. He's direct. He's a legal heavyweight, and he's rooted in facts and very strict values. Brian is the closer. We give him the final word on heavy segments, He's also a Black Republican and former teacher with daughters. He brings the critical duality of being a protector as well as a legal analyst, and that's going to be important here. We'll use him for his fatherhood, his cultural expectations, and the consequences of unchecked power. All right, Brian. And last but not least, yep, you heard her all over the internet. We have attorney Simone Redwine. She's a civil attorney and also a media legal analyst. She's known as the Southern Belle of Justice. Now, you know, Redwine brings a unique blend of legal acumen, media savvy, and Southern charm to the panel. She's gone to the A-list schools, but she's also represented high-profile clients, including victims in the R. Kelly case, and has a background in fashion and trademark law. We're going to call on her because as R. Kelly also faced sex trafficking as well as racketeering, we're going to see what similarities exist between P. Diddy and R. Kelly. On Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, Simone serves as the voice of everyday women, offering insights that resonate with viewers, navigating complex legal issues. Let's give a round of applause in the chat to our legal beagles and all of their expertise. All right, let's get started. To understand the magnitude of this case, we've got to rewind the receipts. The timeline of allegations against Sean Combs is not a random collection of rumors, everybody. It's actually 20 years of saga. From civil suits to a full-blown federal RICO case, let's break down the blueprint of the prosecution. Now, the Department of Justice has outlined 20-plus year criminal enterprise. They're saying in those 20 years, there's been sex trafficking, drug distribution, coercion, and violence. Key names in the periphery are people like Usher, Kim Porter, and Shine. Like I said, the estimated cost for the Department of Justice to prosecute this case is north of $25 million. So let's bring in our legal beagles counselors at this point. And I want to start with you, Attorney Ross. At what point, okay, because we're learning that he has all these different allegations, okay? At what point do multiple allegations become a legally viable criminal enterprise under RICO statutes? Because that's the part for me that I got to be honest, I'm not sure if they are connecting with the everyday public about what are RICO charges, what is racketeering, did he actually do it, was he just in an abusive relationship? Is this about domestic violence or is this about RICO and racketeering? I'm going to pass this to you, our criminal defense attorney. You're on mute.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm a little rusty. I want everyone to know that I am not a Republican. I'm also not a hooker.
I was so worried.
I am not a hooker. And you were more worried about the Republican part than the hooker part.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
Sorry about that situation. All right.
Now, we were collecting funds for you, Brian.
It's rough out here for a Republican hooker these days.
Now be careful. It's a very slippery slope that you're starting to go down. There's one.
Well, explain to me, Brian, if you will, because I'm sure like everybody else, at least the sentiment of the individuals in my chat group, everybody's saying, okay, has the prosecution really proven thus far, since we're closing out the first week, that there was indeed RICO, racketeering, and criminal activity here?
When you ever think about a RICO, this has always been a unique part of the Diddy case, right? The RICO statute is designed to stop a criminal enterprise. So we're in the business of making fake Hermes Birkin bags, and we sell them to Simone Redwine and Chaton, right? And they help us design them, and when we get caught, the prosecutor could say, well, Simone bought the materials, Chaton did the design, Brian distributed them. Therefore, we are charged as a RICO. And occasionally, a small little buyer named Jason Weiss decided to come in and buy one bag a year for his wife. In theory, if Jason knew that that bag was in fact an Hermes Birkenback knockoff, Jason could be charged under RICO as much as Brian could for being a distributor, part of an enterprise. The unique thing about Diddy's case is he's the only one charged with something. In a RICO, Brian would be charged, Simone would be charged, Chantal would be charged, and Jason would be charged, and maybe even Jason's wife. So the government's entire problem from the beginning was, can they prove top to bottom that Diddy created this criminal enterprise? And they can't do that so far because all the horrific evidence that we read about is largely domestic violence. Let's find out if they get beyond as gross. It's gross, right?
So I disagree. I disagree. I think they are 50% of the way there. In order to prove RICO, there must be at least 2 predicate offenses, meaning underlying offenses, that occurred within 2 years. 10 years, correction, 10 years. They have already proven transportation for prostitution.
Right.
That's there. They've only got to prove one more incident. So if they can prove the Kid Cudi arson or the obstruction of justice or any of the underlying things, and I'm specifically talking about things that don't involve Cassie, because I do agree with Brian that the defense is doing a good job with their argument being, hey, the stuff with Cassie was domestic violence. So even if we cut that out, I've at least seen evidence that proves up the transportation for prostitution.
Right. Now, we saw that today because they presented 13 different escort pictures and dancers from different states. They shared that they were from Vegas, New York, LA, and Miami. For the federal course of transporting a prostitution, he had 6 favorite ones, allegedly, that he would bring to different states for his different freak-offs. So that would be considered the transportation of prostitution. Is that also, Attorney Brian Ross, is that also sex trafficking?
Well, one, they have to introduce evidence of sex, right? So you have to show that sex occurred. The plaintiff must show a conduct of an enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity causing injury to plaintiff's business or property. So they have to show basically that Diddy was doing this as a business, right? I don't know if you can, and I haven't been able to get all of the testimony because most of you alligators know that you can't get a camera in the federal courthouse.
That's right.
So we're trying to piece it from what we're reading and seeing. And what I've seen so far, and Attorney Redwine is a beautiful point, right? But from what I've seen so far, how do you prove business? That they got paid, right? That they earned something.
Because they said it. They said it on the stand.
Right.
But the problem I've said from the beginning is that there's too many witnesses, but the witnesses' credibility is terrible. Cassie,
no,
terrible.
The prostitute, the little male hooker, Mandingo hooker, he got up there and I thought he did a good job because not only did he testify that he was a stripper, he testified how much money he made as one, and that Diddy would then pay him $3,800 to do these acts with Cassie. And more specifically, that if he couldn't get it up, because sometimes it would go days and days, if he couldn't get it up, he didn't get paid. And they proved it up by both videos and photos that were shown in the court.
Right. Now, also, this is the same one that said that he remembered distinctly Diddy beating Cassie behind closed doors, and it caused him not able to get it up. Right? Remember
That's
that?
right.
Correct. So let me go to you really quickly, Jason. Jason, when they touched on Kid Cudi, this really struck me as interesting. When they touched on Kid Cudi, because they used the Kid Cudi example as one act of racketeering, right? Where they claim from audio they had Diddy saying that he's going to blow his car, going to blow Kid Cudi's car up, and going to have his friends watch. However, that did happen, but when Cassie was asked, she said that she wasn't sure. Will that weaken their one act of racketeering that they were counting on?
Look, they're going to have enough other people involved that are going to be able to testify more about that. I mean, I think you know, Cassidy's up there because they just want to paint Diddy as this monster. And they're going to get the emotion. They got a pregnant woman on the stand. I mean, hopefully she makes it to the stand tomorrow and doesn't go into labor. They're thinking that she's going to go into labor by this weekend. So she's not the only witness, right? She's one of many. So just because she doesn't know, that doesn't prevent 7 other people from testifying. Yes, that happened.
Okay, let's go to you, Shaitan. How does celebrity privilege and influence impact the pace and strength of this federal investigation?
Well, I mean, clients with money can drag out investigations often. And so sometimes it takes a long time for them to get to trial. In this case, the prosecutors were highly motivated and they had that Cassie video. And so that allowed the pace to not get pushed off as long as we thought. And also Diddy was in jail. If you recall, we were all kind of betting that we were going to be in Miami when the trial started because we thought it was going to get pushed off and that was going to give us time to get our yacht, to get the right bikinis, to, Brian was going to go bartending skills, in addition to the hooker skills. We were going to do all of those things, but then it ended up happening, right on schedule. And so when you have a motivated prosecutor, highly motivated, sometimes it can, have things work right on schedule. One of the things I wanted to say about the RICO action, though, which was talked about like when this first kind of broke, and I think this is a long, slow game from a trial perspective, and I'm not sure if they'll be able to completely weave this, but one of the theories that was bantered about is they were going to try to show that the record business, and I think this is why it falls apart because he was actually a successful record producer, but that was a ruse for this underlying kind of sex trafficking game. And so like, if they can show that this sex trafficking was happening like in connection with video shoots and all those sorts of things, they're going to try to prove that Bad Boy was actually a vehicle to accomplish this criminal world that he was building. And so I think that'll be interesting to see whether that's borne out through the trial.
Sean Carter, what does the prosecution have to prove to connect decades of behavior into a single enterprise like what Shaitan just shared?
And what has to be proved here is not that you've done it more than one time, all right, but rather that it's a pattern. Right. So, for instance, perfect example, let's say every once in a while you and your friends get drunk and you do some crazy stuff. That's not a pattern. That's not RICO. What's RICO is that you do this. I think of this difference is, you can have YOLO, right? You only live once. You go do something crazy. That's not RICO. RICO is sedit, all right, which is shit you do every Tuesday. And that Diddy's problem here is this wasn't a one-off. I turned 50, I was having a midlife crisis. This seemed like a regular affair, right? These people were on regular schedules, etc. And that's when it becomes a criminal enterprise. Not the frequency you do it, but it's a frequency. It's not that you did it more than once, but that you do it a lot.
Got it. Okay. So that's making a lot of sense, counselor, because Cassie did testify that it was happening once a week.
Absolutely.
In the beginning. And then it would go, 2 or 3 days, and then sometimes up to 4 days. So according to that constitutes, or they were, they clearly showed a pattern here, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so if that is also the case, if we go back to the Racketeering Act, a part of the racketeering was established then because the legal definition of racketeering is rape, sexual assault, videotaping, threats of violence, and threats of humiliation for 2 or more people committing a crime. Correct? Counselors, I can hear you guys taping. You have to
No. Bigger question is, what's his lawyer going to do? Right now, in this phase of the prosecution, it is all the government putting on their case in chief. Their evidence is going to rest, and Diddy will be able to put on his own show. So what you're seeing right now, as grotesque as it is really one half of the story. There's no other half to the game coming up. It's going to be very interesting to see what this is what you pay your lawyers for, to present your position. They're not required to do it, but they will. But the other question is Diddy going to take the stand? I don't think he will, but he has the right to do so. So there's a lot more to come forward.
As of now, Diddy is not going to take the stand based on what's going on now. But I can tell you this, in some screenshots and some articles that I've read and making some phone calls, he was not happy today. There was a lot of things going on. He was staring at his own attorneys. He wasn't happy. Supposedly he went through an entire pad of Post-its, passing notes. So something was being said and something was being done, and the way it was being handled today, he was not happy. He was visibly angered. And that's not good for the jury to see.
It isn't good for the jury to see, but it is good. And here's why. I imagine what Diddy was doing was saying, hey, you need to go after this woman. She's lying. She's doing this. She's doing that. And the lawyer cross-examiner is smart and like, no, I'm not going to be attacking this 99 trimester pregnant woman, right? You can't be out there. That woman, half the baby was out. All right, you cannot go out and attack her and call her a liar and an idiot and all that. All right, even through the Constitution, you can't do that.
You think if she gives birth on the stand, it's a mistrial?
No. So I'm sure Diddy was like, go after her, and they're like, no, fool. No. All right, we cannot, call her a liar, right, and all the stuff you want to call her. We need to be very nice about this, very cordial about this. We had the woman cross-examine her. All right, we're going to be talking about all kind of stuff, including her menstrual cycle, etc. You can't have Brian Ross with his gruff voice. Right, sounded like Gruffy McCrime dog. Right, yelling at a woman about why you doing on your period. Right, he needed. It worked out right. Diddy was supposed to be mad because he's thinking other stuff, but they did the right thing by letting him be mad. Be mad at me, all right, but not be mad at yourself, me, for the next 30 years because we.
Let's go to the two female attorneys on the panel here. How significant is it that she's pregnant and she's testifying, and is it playing a pivotal role in her testimony?
Let the Women's National Rights Convention begin. I can't wait to hear it.
Hey, you don't hush up, boy. I think it makes her more of a sympathetic victim, and especially when you're talking about this Freako stuff, right? Because they're really up here trying to make her look like a crack whore who, who was obsessed with baby oil and was putting everything in all of her crevices. She was a vessel for everything from urination to, baby magic juice. So I think to contrast that with this woman who could give birth at any moment to, I don't know, the next Jesus Christ for all we know. She could be like a Virgin Mary. It's just a really interesting juxtaposition. Shaitan, what do you think?
No, I agree with you. I mean, so I don't know if we're allowed to say jokes in this current version of the show, but what I thought is that Cassie's testimony and her existence, because this is going to be her third child with her husband. She's got 2 girls, and she's carrying a boy. And I thought this was inspiration for hoes everywhere, right? Because what she was testifying that she was doing back then, and she was in love. And I'm not discounting the fact that she was a victim, because we can talk about that in a second. But everybody tells girls, if you get turned out, if you're on video, if you use too much baby oil and take it in all the crevices, you can't get married to a nice man. I think that her husband's nice. He was in the audience today. And I also think that when she married that rich white man and he found out what Diddy did to her, he was the one who said, go after it and sue. And I think there's also a racial juxtaposition here that is at play that probably won't get a lot of attention because of the other salacious arguments. But I was looking at her and her white husband. He might be Latino, I'm not sure. He's light. And compared to Diddy, where they've all keep showing Diddy looking darker than I've ever seen him look in life. I didn't think they had tanning beds in prison. And it seems like they're trying to play it a little bit like they did with OJ back in the day, that he's this dark, menacing monster. And now
Yeah, I thought you were right. You're right, Shaitan, because one of the reporters described him as looking darker. His face turned black. Now, how a black person's face turn black? I just need to know. They said that his face turned black. I was like, now, how did he? Come on now.
Listen, when you sit through these criminal jury trials, your clients are under extreme duress. Extreme duress. You, as the attorney, you identify with it. You see it. But the reality is, it's not your problem. It's sad. Your job is to do what you're getting paid to do, especially at this level. It's intense. It's painful. And Diddy, for whatever cause you want to make it, right or wrong, is facing every demon he's sowed. Oh, so of course he looked black. Yeah. He's not sleeping. He's not going back to prison sleeping tonight. This man's used to eating. I know a chef. He's used to eating filet mignon. He is eating prison food.
Right.
He's and he is fat. He got fat.
He's not working out.
I want to go back.
I want to go to the gym, dude. They give you an hour PT per day. Go to the gym and work out. You're not working out.
He gonna get beat up. He don't need to play around. He don't need to.
I want to go back to Shaitan's comment really quickly. Shaitan, Alex Fine, her husband, used to be Diddy's trainer. So he's not some wealthy white man.
He's not. He's poor.
Now he's poor. But
he's poor by Simone Redwine standards.
No. He used to be a trainer. He used to be Diddy's trainer, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming at one time he was good friends with Diddy, and then probably saw how Cassie was being treated by him, and kind of came in and wanted to be the saver. That's how it appears to me. And
some coin. I'm just saying that he loves her, right? He's building a life with her. He loves her. And whether he had a front row seat to the abuse or he just heard about it from her, either way, I think his love empowered her to go after and try to get justice. And
because they didn't have any money. I think they didn't have any money, and he was like, "You're crazy. You've gone through too much. You wrote this book. It's driving you nuts. I can't get you as a parent or a wife. You're disconnected. Listen, you're going to have to do something about this." And one of the options here is get money for all of the pain that he's creating. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to the courtroom. Now, let's talk about the testimony that cracked this whole thing wide open. We know Cassie Ventura, his long-time girlfriend, didn't just open up. She detonated a courtroom bomb. This wasn't just a he said, she said. The last 2 days in court, this has been very graphic. It's been disturbing. And frankly, even for some of the jurors, it's been devastating. Now, we've heard from reporters that some jurors who had to watch or look at the pictures of the actual sex acts that she had to perform at these freak-offs. One juror had a jerk in his neck. One juror shook their head. One juror was just eyes wide open, like in complete disgust. I want to go to you, Attorney Simone Redwine. What does that mean in the picture that the prosecutor is painting in these jurors' mind around these sex acts?
I think it means that it's working as far as showing. I believe that a large part of the purpose of Cassie is just to establish how depraved and how cruel Diddy is, both as a boss and as a human. Mm-hmm. And so I think it has worked to really discuss these people and taint their view of him, really take him off his pedestal as the hip hop mogul, so that as they get into the other elements of the other crimes, the jurors are going to be receptive to it.
Now, let me ask you this, and I want to go to all the lawyers here. They were visibly distraught by the sexual pictures. However, after they talked about the sexual pictures, they then talked about that day that she was the R word, raped, right? Mm-hmm. But then she says a week later she had sex with him and the juror's temperament changed. How damaging is that, Attorney Ross?
It's damaging because a person in distress isn't supposed to go back to a distressful condition. Now, for her to say I was R word and then go back and then be intimate with him again 1 week later, it begs the question as the sincerity of your statements. Again, you will sit through your trial in the government's case in chief, and you will want to throw up. You'll be sitting there sweating. You're wondering how you can get out of this. You're looking like it's impossible. And you gather yourself and you put your case on and you fight back. I am telling you, there's another side to this. Cassie was a popular person. She had access to nightclubs. She was on South Beach with some of us. There's pictures of her doing cocaine. There's pictures of her with no escorts without him being present. There's text messages and phone calls. All this is going to come in. I'm telling you. She might be on the stand pregnant and everyone feels horrible and some of it's very gross. But she's going to account for some of her demons too. And you watch. And these people that they're parading in front that are professional prostitutes is what they are. It's going to come up. So you were here that night, weren't you? Yes. And this is your face? It is. And how long were you there for? I don't recall. What happens if we have a camera that shows you arriving at 10 o'clock and leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning, if you say so? So you were there for 6 hours. And who's this gentleman with you? Yeah. He's a professional prostitute too, isn't he? I don't know. Oh, you don't know? Can we introduce his criminal record? And you're going to destroy their reputation because they're seedy individuals. Right. That's what's coming. That's what's coming.
Why I need to do criminal work. Because as Tara O, she says Diddy groomed her. And I think that's true. He met her when she was 19. And so she was an adult, but not a real adult. We actually have some federal laws lately that have said that they apply to people 19 and under. So, this notion of what's an adult is relative. Your brain is still being formed until you're 26. That's been proven. I think that he knew how to manipulate her. There was a significant age difference. And there was also, he had been in these streets and he was older. He was older with seasoning in the streets, right? And he had a goal. He didn't start the freak offs with her, right? So I had a guy come to my house for dinner once and he was dating a friend of mine and he did this to her. And I was surprised that she allowed it because he told us what was going to happen. And he said, he was 19 years old. He's probably in prison now for all I know, even though at the time he was in college at Colgate playing basketball. But this is what he said, Simone. He said, when I meet a girl, I find out what she needs and I become that. If she don't have a daddy, I become her daddy. If she got a problem with her mama, I become her mama. I make sure she's completely dependent on me, so I become her everything, and she can't leave. That's what he said, and he did that to my friend, and then he left her, and she was devastated. And he was 19, right? Diddy was in his 40s at that point. Diddy knew what he was doing, and so the fact that she was out there, like, acting reckless when she wasn't with him, she was so tied to him. She was on drugs, which she admitted, and she had subscribed to this lifestyle, right? And once you get so lost that you don't even know who you are, you do a lot of stuff. Now, should he be responsible for all of it? Probably not. But to Simone's point, it does show what he's capable of. And so then it plants a seed in the jury's mind as what else might he have done?
Okay, I like that. I like that analogy, even though I have a hard time. Hold on. I have a hard time believing.
Thank you.
I just have a hard time believing that for 10 years you participated. You love the red carpets, you love the clothes, you love the jets, you love the fine restaurants, you love the access to the Louis stores when they're closed. You love all those great things. And however, you were so in love that you could not process all of the abuse, the hate, and what we're talking about here, trafficking and racketeering. Like I'm that's the part that I'm confused. So I want to go to you, Attorney Carter. And this is the part I got to say that I actually feel. I feel that they have definitely painted a picture of domestic abuse, right? Mm-hmm. But what about the other stuff? I just don't understand, or at least in my gut, I don't feel that they have proven the other part of the federal charges, because domestic violence and it's ugly, it's nasty, it's horrible. It's like pimps that control their prostitutes. But is that a federal case?
No. And let's be clear, right? First of all, the prosecution has not proven their case yet. They're not saying they did. They got another 3 weeks of testimony. So let's be
7 weeks.
They're just laying a foundation. And here's my theory about this. Cassie is on the stand for 2 reasons. One, because otherwise she's about to have this baby. All right. So you want to get her on now. But more importantly, she is the one that sets up the jury to be mad at Diddy.
Exactly.
He is a monster, because the thing they're going to get him on is the Mann Act. The Mann Act is the thing that says you can't bring people across state lines for prostitution. And I'm sure they've got the receipts on that. And by the way, it's an important thing for you algoriters, all right? If you're going to buy the Tootsie Cat, you have to source it locally, all right? Just like food, and you want to think global, but shop local, all right? You cannot be bringing people from out of state, because that is a crime. In every instance is a 10-year possible sentence. They have Diddy on that dead to rights. I'm sure they got the receipts. They've got everything. But here's the problem is, nobody's going to want to send Diddy, all right, to jail for the rest of his life for just the fact that he's violated this Mann Act, that he didn't source his prostitutes locally. So what they're going to do is that Cassie is the reason why they will feel okay to send him to jail for life, because he did do things to her, right? Yep, okay. And the other witnesses that have come up. And so, but whether, for instance, he sex trafficked her, I'm not sure they're ever going to get that conviction. They don't need it, because
why do people keep acting like she's the only witness? She's not the only witness. She's not the only witness. Nor is she the only victim. The indictment itself listed 5 victims. So I say that to say that I don't believe that she took the stand to prove up all of the charges.
Okay.
But I do believe, as Attorney Carter stated, her job was to get people riled up and dislike that man.
Yep.
Yeah, she's setting the stage. She's setting the stage, right? Because he came in with, you asked about celebrity earlier. He came in with such a strong reputation and celebrity. Granted, it had been tainted because of what had been in the media, but they needed her to come in and to have what's on that video to resonate with the jurors because of how it affected her. And I actually think, although people in the chat may be disagreeing, and they are, I think the fact that she copped and confessed to loving him and was emotionally conflicted about she was doing the freak offs in order to be with him at the end because she wanted him so much.
Where in the world are you sleeping with close to 8 to 10 men a week to be in love, to find love with the person who's making you do that? Like, these guys are coming in with huge penises.
She's dumb. She's very
hours on end. And while you're getting taken advantage, and I'm just thinking out loud, I'm not taking sides, but I'm just thinking logistically.
I'm just saying she's dumb, because they were not even a public couple at the time. He literally wouldn't claim her public. You got these people putting stuff in here, in my ear, in my butt, in my this, in my that.
Right.
And you're not even going to claim me on the red carpet. Baby, you better take me to Golden Corral. You better take me to church. You better take me to the mall. You better take me anywhere I want to go, and you better drive me there in your Bentley.
Well, I mean, now I understand why there was so much baby oil, because if you're doing that for days, like, regular lube probably isn't enough. And so
6 to 8.
Yeah, she needed protection, and I guess that's what it was for. But I mean, here's the thing. Like, someone put in the chat, Stockholm Syndrome. So you got to think about this. Depending on what she knew about the game, she's 19, right? She must not have had Simone Redwine or me in her life, because we could have coached her about how she could have gotten a bunch of free stuff and not done all those freaky things. But like, lots of stuff. Like, so call us, girls. We have a whole side hustle. Just
unreal.
Yeah, but
I blame her daddy. Where was her daddy?
He's but also, like, 70-year-old little poor little Filipino man. He can't take on Diddy. But beyond that,
Yeah, she
But
probably
yeah.
thought that was her only way to keep the lifestyle, because this is the part that you have to remember. She was an aspiring singer.
He was paying
She was
bills.
in a relationship with one of the most powerful men in the music industry. If he was beating
Who
her,
was pimping you out to sleep with random men and take their
but she still
seed
had her
on
dream.
her face and anywhere else that they want to put it?
It's good hair
but like
conditioner,
but like
she-
Danielle Cameron, sorry, Shaitan, go ahead.
no, you can
Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, like Danielle Cameron said, it's like, why do abused women stay with men that hit them, or a pimp that that manipulates the women, and they still love their pimp and they want to go back and they want to do it because they want to keep their pimp happy. Unfortunately, at 19 years old, she was not thinking with her brain. She was thinking with other parts of her body. And, this is probably the decision that she made. She was probably drugged up.
I disagree. I think in the beginning, she was thinking with her brain. She thought of this as an opportunity to support her career. She thought that it would be once a week like it started out. She didn't plan on it being 4 days long with no option of leaving or washing, or she didn't plan on having to book a world tour. She thought that she was going to be on a world tour. She didn't know that she was going to be booking a world tour of prostitute men coming in and banging her out for her boyfriend's best interests.
Well,
I just think that's
what? Remember being 19, right? And being
but she wasn't 19 the whole time. She started at 22. She wasn't 19 the whole time.
She started. No, but you said when she started, she didn't sleep with him until she was 21. So he was grooming her from 19 to 21. But you said when she started that she was being strategic and tactical. And I think
so. I think she was like, I got a guy, one of the most powerful men in entertainment, who likes me.
And he likes
He's calling me. He's got me at the studio. He told me that I'm going to have a great career. Blah, 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 blah. I feel like that's just realistic. And anybody who had just like R. Kelly, he had that same ability. For anybody that wanted that lifestyle, he would tell them exactly what they wanted to hear. And then when they did,
it's the language.
Where is R. Kelly today?
I live in a transitional neighborhood, and there is no Diddy and R. Kelly here. And I am fairly certain down the street there's someone's being tricked out right now. It's not just about people who have this kind of access. It's about, and I'll say this, men who understand, like I said, what the woman needs. And I think he became all of that for her. And to Simone's point, I don't think she had any strong men in her life or strong women. She was out there fending for herself and felt like she couldn't get out.
Can I make an irrelevant legal point?
Sure.
Whether or not she was groomed, etc., really isn't the issue for federal prosecution in this case, right? The only issue is simply, and here's why: everybody in a relationship, all right, ends up being coerced into doing shit they don't want to do. All right, you think I want to sit in the mall, holding my wife's purse while she's in the damn store? No.
As long as she's buying a slip, you're happy. We know that.
Anyway, but the point is that seriously, you do a lot of stuff to keep the other person happy. All right, that's not the crime. The crime is if you do this to keep your spouse happy, that's not the crime. The crime is if she didn't want to do it, but she had to do it because one, he either beat her and said you can't do it, which is why they showed the video when she tried to leave the freak off. Yep. That's a crime. It's also a crime if you say, hey, I'll blackmail you, I'll show you video, etc. So as long as there's no criminal coercion, the fact that he loved her, that he used her, that he found out her weak spot or whatever, that is perfectly from legal standpoint, that's irrelevant. And the truth of the matter is we all do that to some extent with our partners if we want to keep them. You find out what they want, and you manage to give them the thing that they want enough to keep them. I've been married for 33 years. That's the entire key to my marriage, is finding a way to do the things that my wife needs to keep me. All right? Because as soon as I stop, she's not, and that makes sense. That's what we all do in marriage. All right, you do the thing you need to do. Now, fortunately, my wife does not need me to get baby oiled but if she decided that, we would be negotiable. We had to work it out. All right. The point is,
did you say fortunately she doesn't make you, or unfortunately she doesn't make you?
I plead the fifth because I'm not on trial here. The point is simply
I rest my case, Your Honor.
All right. Before we get to, hold on. Before we get to, I want to go back to Attorney Carter. Before we get to some of the comments, how did the court's Attorney Carter? Because I like what you just said. How do courts distinguish between consensual acts and coercion when power and money are involved?
And that's the challenge. And with Diddy's have a second problem, which is that this is almost in a sense like workplace sexual harassment.
Right.
Because remember, he's controlling her career, got her to her first album. She's done a 10-album deal with him. And so certainly if she decides she's not doing the freak offs anymore, she's not getting album 2 through 10, which she didn't end up getting anyway. Right. And so that's where it's going to be coercive, where they're going to say, hey, it would be like if at work, your boss said, hey, sleep with me, all right? Or if you want to keep this job, right, then that would be coercive. And so he's got more problems than the normal person in a relationship, right? And so he's probably got some coercive control there.
I'm going to go to you, Simone Redwine, because I know you're on top of this. You, hold on, Attorney Turner, Redwine, talk to us about how when he did try to put her on, when he did invite her on TRL, how she just was a horrible performer. I mean, talk about that. Let's talk about when he was trying to put her on the main stages, how she performed on those main stages, and where was that in her thought of him, gonna make her a big star, when he stopped, when he pulled back, when he had to hire her vocal lessons and all that other stuff. Talk to me about that and how that plays in this.
No, absolutely. And before I add that, I want to say thanks to the nursing game for the super chat. She says, did he learn his behavior from his mother, who was a slut, for his daddy, who was who then was unalived in them streets? Good point. So I think the defense is going to lean on the fact that Cassie wasn't that good, right? That she has the big flub. You can look at the video on 106 in Park where she said she couldn't hear herself as she was singing, and she sounded like a deaf bird, It was pretty bad. And in turn, the defense is going to say, well, maybe it was your performance and the fact that you were focused on acting and doing other things. That was why your albums weren't being released, and your drugs and the drug abuse. So I think there are some arguments to be made there. But the truth is, it was a 10-album deal, and she only put out one album, and they were together for 11 years. So somebody, that's where I also lean in and I say, where were her parents? Because my daddy and my mom would be like, where's your album? After year 4, 5, 6, 10, somebody would have had a cap in their behind by Daddy Redwine.
At the end of the day, you still have this thing where she was an adult and she had the right to pick and choose. And as gross as it is, she could have left. And there's the argument, oh, you don't know. She was 19. She could have left. And as long as the defense sticks to that, I think they have a chance. Don't buy into the avoid the match.
And let me ask you that, criminal defense attorney Ross, can they also use the fact that, because I can't wait to see if they're going to do this. To me, can the defense use the previous financial settlement to impeach her credibility?
I don't know if there was a pending settlement, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. One that's already settled, you might be able to bring it up in the Bill Cosby context. It says, you said you wouldn't say anything, but that's a slippery slope. That's a slippery slope, because then the prosecution comes back and says, think about it. She already got paid millions of dollars and she's still here. That shows that she's not about the money. She's actually here to do justice. I don't know if I would bring it up unless we had.
And it could go into the obstruction of justice charge. Oh, so you're going to pay her off and with the expectation that now that you gave her $20 million, she's not supposed to show up at court? Because the truth is, if you're subpoenaed, even if you've been given a settlement, you still got to show up. That's why I think Gina, victim number 3, allegedly, who is AWOL, I think she took a check and she went over there to Bali and is hanging out with Russell.
How hard, and you're Judge, don't let me cut you off. Simone or Shaitan, or anyway, how hard are the U.S. Marshals, Jason, Sean, looking for her right now? They're scouring the planet. They're in Indonesia at the Marriott right now looking for her. Like James Bond is looking for that woman. For what? That's how hard it is.
She shaved her head. She's doing like all kinds. She's in an ashram. Yeah, they ain't gonna find her. But to Attorney Carter's point, though, I think this is something that will be borne out. So you have the personal interaction with Diddy and with Oh Girl, and you think you can reduce it to like she knew what she was getting into. She was an adult, like Brian said. But here's where I think you can't discount it and get there so easily is like Attorney Carter pointed out, this employment aspect, right? And so when someone holds your career, she wasn't a W-2 employee, so she doesn't have like a sexual
She could have left,
charge.
Sean. I'm going to cut you off, all right? I'm cutting you off. I'm being rude. I'm hoping I get censored. I'm sitting here listening
Republican.
all of this. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I can't take it. The National Women's Liberation Foundation will always
Order in the court.
ridiculous.
Order in the court.
I'm just like sitting here listening to this.
And you will never make it unless you keep going like this to strangers. That is what I think she was told. And it wasn't just about the relationship. It was about her dream. He blackmailed her. I think it will come out. All of the things. And this is why they have her going first. Because once you have the physical abuse and you're able to get the jury to see him as a monster, it is so easy to get them to believe all of these other allegations of misdeeds.
It's a brilliant plan.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant plan.
Right. Let's take a look at the video one more time and how I really feel like this video is a smoking gun for real. Bailiff, let's take a look.
It's horrible.
Oh, what?
Oh, he's strong. He's mighty.
So help me understand, Shaitan and Simone. If I'm going through this type of physical abuse and I have a hotel worker here who has come to the floor to help mitigate, how did you end up back in the room?
It's literally amazing, Your Honor. The hotel security's whole job is to protect this situation. I mean, you live for one purpose, and this is it, right? And you don't do it. And then it gets reported to LAPD, and poof, like a puff of gas after Thanksgiving collard greens, it disappears. What is going on, dude? Like, I can't figure this whole thing out. I know.
And then the other thing, I want to go back to all the parents that are on the panel.
Unreal, man.
If your daughter was going through this and you saw this, didn't you teach your daughter to get out as soon as possible, get to the police as soon as possible, call me as soon as possible? What happened here?
I'm not gonna victim shaming because I think it's.
I don't want this to be taken as victim shaming. I'm asking basic questions. I'm asking basic questions.
But that's what I'm saying.
Please don't use that as please don't use that as victim shaming. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand. Is it so much love or so much fear that you're afraid that even though you just tried to escape, that after you have the opportunity, the breaking up or the interference of a security guard, that you can no longer escape? That's what I want to know. That's not victim shaming. I just want clarity.
So someone in the chat, Siren, she wrote, and it says, so what happens when you leave and he deletes you? I've seen multiple people say that. And multiple victims say, well, my concern is if I were to leave him, he is going to try to delete me. Here's the thing. You're going to get deleted regardless. Why not if you're going to get deleted fighting? Not just laying there on the crucifix, taking me out. So I think what it is, and this is important to note, that Cassie's testimony was that after this happened, she went to a friend's house to kind of hide out. The friend was so devastated by how her face looked that they called the cops. The cops came. So many people were saying after the settlement, oh, she should have called the cops. She did. Cops came. Cops took a report. She wouldn't tell the cops who did it. So nothing moved forward. When asked, why didn't you give them his name? She said, I wasn't ready. So I think that's largely what it is. They have to have a plan. So when you're a victim of this kind of stuff, it's not just about, yeah, they want to leave, but a lot of times they have to plan. They'll think about, like, do I have my kids' clothes? Do I have my stuff packed up?
Right.
Where's my laptop? Here, she literally stood there arguing with the security guard and said, well, I want to leave, but he has my phone and he has my stuff. And understandable, you need your phone to communicate, even to just order an Uber. Ultimately, she got the phone back and she had to Uber herself wherever she went.
Okay.
Well, the other thing that they wonder about too, Simone, right, is will he kill me? Right? These are not moments.
You're gonna get killed regardless.
Where the thoughts are always clear and the path is easy. It gets complicated. I mean, think about it. We act like we all didn't see what love got to do with it, that portrayed the Tina Turner story with Ike Turner. She was an international superstar and she endured that situation for years too. So the reason I said I wasn't going to entertain victim shaming wasn't a dig at you, Al. It's just that I think it's very easy in hindsight when you see videos like that to be like, why would anybody withstand that? And because there are women's shelters all over the country, there is a reason why it happens. And I think that it's more complex than people who haven't been involved appreciate.
Right. I get it. I'm not victim shaming because I'm actually on her side. I'm just exploring all sides of how people may think about what they are viewing from a public opinion site. Like, a lot of people, don't think that deep into stuff. So for some people, they're like, okay, why didn't she just run out? So that's what I asked. Why didn't she run out? I asked for clarity. I didn't ask for clarity because I don't think that that was that easy. I'm not shaming the victim. I'm just asking questions that other people who are looking and witnessing this may possibly think, just like a jury member. We know that some of the jury members are massage therapists. Some are neuroscientists. Some are just basic host people. So everybody has a different level of comprehension, right? And that's what the prosecutor and defense have to break down, right? Because that massage therapist may be like, oh, or that nurse home aide might be like, oh, why didn't she just leave? Why didn't she just walk out? It's been 11 years. Why didn't she just, they don't understand the whole psychological, hypnotizing or whatever you want to call it, or manipulation. So that's the reason why I asked this question. And I
just want to say real quickly, someone is saying that our conversation is dangerous. And I just want to say what's dangerous is continuing to perpetrate the thought that you should just stay in your violent situation because it's more dangerous to leave. That's untrue. Statistics show it's actually more dangerous to stay. Because if you stay, that is when people get unalived. And if you're going to be in a dangerous situation, it's better to come up with a plan, use your resources, and find a strategic way. I'm not saying just go in the brink of night, but I am saying if he's going to hurt you, then you should go out trying to fight for your children, if no other way, no other reason, if you have them.
All right, Jason, I'm going to throw to you really quickly. What weight, we clearly see that they've started out with this video. What weight does this carry when memory is subjective? Will they be showing this throughout the next 7 weeks? Will they come back to it? Because showing it in the beginning, setting the stage will work, but how long will it last?
They are going to take every opportunity to go ahead and use this video to make sure it is fresh in everybody's mind. The public, the jury, the people that are sitting in the pews watching this, everybody is going to see this because they want to damage his public perception. They don't want people saying, "Oh my God, it's Diddy." They want people going, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's Diddy." And they've accomplished that, and they will continue to accomplish that. And his reputation, I believe, my opinion, he's not coming back from this. If how much time he serves in jail, where he does, what's appeals, that's still up for grabs. But he's not coming back from this from a professional standpoint or a public relations standpoint.
All right, so we've seen the video, and Cassie's voice has been heard for the last couple of days in the courtroom, but evidence is mounting, and it's not just emotional. We're starting to get a lot of digital pictures. We're starting to see visuals, and they're talking about logistical things. It's the kind of evidence that makes juries gasp and lawyers sweat. So coming up, we're noticing, or what we're told, is that we have a new victim, right, that served the same role as Cassie did, will be coming to testify. They have key card logs, explicit text, drug logs. They have anonymous witness who they say some of the witness will be former workers, former artists. And they are also looking for, some former employees allegedly are detailing hush money. All right, with all of this coming up, if you were the defense attorney, Attorney Ross, what would you be talking about?
You have to go after these people's character. You have to directly assassinate their credibility, right? What did we say? When did we start this, Judge? January of this year?
Yeah.
That year, January, late last year, right? Last January, I think. What did we say? Too many witnesses. You have to assassinate their character. There's no Jason Whitesman coming across this thing. These people are professional party animals. You got to go after the pictures. I mean, your investigators are working 24 hours a day on this, straight up. I mean, and that's what you have to do. Attack their character.
But let me ask you this. One, what does that give you? So yes, the prostitute is a liar, but I got receipts. I've got phone. I got phone logs. I've got hotel reservations you made people. I've got plane tickets you bought for people. How does showing that so and so is a scumbag and all help you get over the fact that you paid this person to come out to have sex with somebody, and that in and of itself, by the way, whether they had sex with them or not is not even relevant. If you pay them to come out to have sex, that's when the crime is committed. So I'm not sure how their character matters at all.
But show me all. Let me respond. Let me respond.
Yeah. Travels. I mean, that's why they're going.
Show me all your receipts. You got a bunch of receipts, don't you? Show me all your flight tickets. You got a bunch of flight tickets, don't you? Show me your bank receipts. You got a bunch of bank receipts, don't you?
Yeah. So the fact that they're a whore all the time doesn't at all obviate Diddy's violation of the Mann Act.
Well, my client called you in for a weekend to do what you do every day. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
So my client is now a complete extortionist because you advertise your services like a barber.
No, remember, it doesn't matter. For the Mann Act, all you have to prove is that you flew someone out for them to engage in an act of prostitution. That's all it matters. The fact that they do it all the time doesn't matter at all. The fact they're a scumbag, they're a drug addict, doesn't matter. Did you fly them out to pay them for sex? And if you did, that's a violation.
So let me ask the lawyers this real quick, because we know that he got the escorts from Craigslist. He got it from different sites that have escorts, and those escorts move by themselves from city to city based on how much work that they can get. So if they knew that Diddy was going to be in Los Angeles and they flew themselves there to be a client of his, but they did get paid for their escorting. Is that sex trafficking?
No, they did it on their own. No. They moved on
but if they still live in Houston, flew out for the weekend, went back to Houston, that is a violation of the Mann Act.
They went on their own.
Explain this to me. Because here's Diddy's only possible defense to the Mann Act violations is to say, I didn't know they were hoes. I thought they just liked me. They were into my music. They love that Shake Your Tail Feather song. And he could say that. But here's the thing is, if you call them drug addicts and hoes, and you dismiss their character, then it makes it more likely that Diddy did it. What you need to do as the defense attorney, it seems to me, is to go in and say, this is a good church girl. I thought she was going to come out here. You know, I was doing Make-A-Wish, all right, for all my fans on MTV, and I didn't know they were going to come out here and just start hoeing. But if you call them hoes and scumbags, then you know you violated because you invited them out. You couldn't pay them out.
No, but I don't. This is what I can't figure out, Sean. You really believe that Diddy's credit card is going to say Diddy paid for it?
No, that's why they got him on the RICO.
Here, I name is Diddy.
No, that's why they got him on the RICO, because there will be a bad boy.
We want to fly out.
There'll be a bad boy for somewhere on there.
Use my black card. You think that's
no. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, Brian, is that he used his employees.
Absolutely, he used his employees. That's why the RICO charge is there.
They coordinated the flights. They coordinated the hotels. They fixed the hotels.
That's why it's an enterprise, y'all.
Cassie was. Hold on, please, Shaitan. Cassie was the one who called the escorts from the different sites to get them to come over. But everybody else helped.
So
Huh?
Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you are friends with hoes. Nobody else got friends that are hoes, right?
Now you better raise your hand. The man who's married for 33 years better keep his hands down.
Let's be clear.
Keep your hands down. You got 33 years.
Clear. I don't mean, you mean professional or just recreational hoes? I know some recreational hoes, all right? Those are my favorite people, all right? But professional, I don't know anybody who getting paid, unfortunately. Everybody I know is amateur.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I think that there is another argument other than the church girl argument, which is, hey, I knew they liked a good time. I knew they were recreational hoes. I wanted them to come on vacation, and I wasn't paying anybody to do it, right? And that's where I think he's going to have to go. Like, hey, I don't know. Like, also, like, I didn't pay every music artist who came. They just came to party and they happened to sing when they were there, right? Just because this person who's a professional hoe decided they wanted to have sex on my party, right, does not mean that I was paying them for that purpose, and that's why they came across.
Wait, did you forget they got booked? Did you forget some of them got booked off of a booking agency from a booking?
Well, there's some.
Yeah, but when my gay boyfriend showed up, his agent sent him out there.
Right. And then I have friends who went through a professional agency that they were hired from. All right, let's go to the defense. All right. And I want to go to you, attorney Redwine. I want to go to you real quick. All right. So let's go back. Let's go to the defense. If you were on a defense team and you have to push back after these 4 days of this empathy of this pregnant woman, and you clearly have to deny all allegations, right? And so in their defense, they are framing a narrative that this was all consensual adult behavior.
Yes.
All right. Can a defense of consensual adult behavior succeed when there is a power balance, when there is career, money involved? Is it easy to prove consensual adult behavior?
I definitely agree. I think here as well, the one activity that I thought, they might have some issue with as far as showing consensual behavior is she alleged that he R-worded her.
Right.
But then she said that afterwards they had consensual sex.
Right.
She's lost credibility with me there. No.
And not once, but twice.
Well, that was the main one for me. That was in the same way that with Shannon Sharp, when the young lady that accused Shannon Sharp then had consensual multiple times. That was a tough one for me there.
What say you, Attorney Ross?
I mean, I agree with Simone that she lost credibility on that. How far that goes, we don't know, but she's lost credibility.
How about if you were the defense attorney, Attorney Carter, would you be leaning in that, this is a smear campaign on Diddy in the media and there's no way you can get a fair trial?
I mean, that's what you're going to have to try. There is, let's be clear, all right? If this is not Diddy, this is not a federal RICO case, All right, there are plenty of people who are flying hoes and out to getting flued out. All right, hoes get flued out every week, and Rico and the FBI doesn't get involved. All right, so obviously it had to do something to do with Diddy. All right, if this was anybody else, think about it. Hugh Hefner, all right, had an entire business built, all right, for bringing women out, all right, to have sex with people at the mansion. Nobody thought anything about it. All right, so if this is something that happens all the time. People have bachelor parties. If you're in New York and you bring out people from New Jersey, that's a violation of the Mann Act. Nobody ever talks about that. So Diddy's Diddy's celebrity here is a big deal. And the biggest deal that Diddy has is that tape. Because here's why. Even if she liked him at first, wanted to go back with him and loved him, him dragging her by the hair away from back to a freak off, that's the definition. There's no more coercion than that. Right, and that tape is going to be a problem. If it had not been at a freak off, if it had just been a situation where they were at home together and they had some domestic violence, that's not a federal matter. But to the extent that he's in a towel dragging her back to a freak off, how's he going to argue that that's where she wanted to be? Obviously, she didn't want to be there that day, at least. And remember, by the way, here's the thing is, I think people get is that you don't have to, for violation of law, to be doing it against someone's will all the time. She could have wanted to be at 99 of the freak-offs, but there was one that she didn't want to be at, and you made her be there. You've got a problem.
Got a problem.
Attorney Weiss, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the only thing is that I agree with everything Attorney Carter just said, but if it's hard to distinguish when she wanted to be there as opposed to when she didn't want to be there. So the rationale is going to be, oh, we did this a week ago, you loved it. We did it a month ago, you loved it. Now all of a sudden you don't love it. But what happens next week when I want it again? Do you love it? Do you not? So there's got to be some consistency. And again, the fact that she went back when she had an out, that is going to be problematic for her.
Yes. Thank you, Justin. You said it better than I did. It was coming back after she had an out, after she alleged the R word happened.
Right. I mean, the problem is,
well, how about before that, when she left him and went to rehab and wrote the book?
She didn't come back after that. That was it.
Come back after that?
That was in 2023.
Okay, got it.
That is actually why at the BET Awards, he makes that shout out to her in June. She wrote the book and did all that in early 2023.
Got it.
And then that's when her legal team began reaching out to him. So it was like he was gaslighting her as he reached out.
But you guys do realize that from a legal standpoint, the fact that the person, your victim, forgives you, allows you another chance, does not mean that you didn't commit the original crime.
That is right. You're right.
If you would commit the DV against your wife, and then she comes back, that doesn't mean you're home free from the last time you DV'd her.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. That's good to know right there.
I want to go back to the question that you asked a while ago about our children. I know I have a daughter. Attorney Weiss has a daughter. Attorney Ross has a daughter. You're absolutely right. Would we want our daughters to have enough wherewithal to never be in that situation? Absolutely.
Not never be in it. Not never be in it.
But even if they were the victim once, would we want them to bounce and call and to be empowered? Of course. I think other than like a few warped parents, everybody wants that. But there's so many victims, right? And so I think you are right. We could have another discussion about how does this happen over time to so many women, right? And as somebody pointed out in the chat, it's not just economic disparity. It's not just power and equity. It happens a lot of times. And I think it's a topic that should be explored.
Bad.
Right. How do you legally protect that?
Wow, that's the question, right? I mean, where's the line drawn on?
Yeah, I think that's
where it's consensual. Right? Diddy's team is going to try and paint this whole saga as a consensual situation,
right?
And that's tough, but they might be able to do it. So we'll see. I mean, like Jason eloquently said, and Simone agreed with, she left and chose to come back.
This is my question, and because I have questions, people, it does not mean that I am not for the victim. Jeez, I just have questions because it's like people have thoughts. So my question is, how do you prove? See, my hardest thing for me in thinking how other people may process this is 11 years of something so bad and so disgusting. 11 years of something so bad and so disgusting. How is a defense going to say it was consensual and she liked it, but she didn't like it and she wanted out, but clearly she didn't get out for 11 years. And when she did get out, she got paid.
Well, Your Honor, and that's why I think the jury composition is so important here, and why they were really, I'm guessing that we have some older people on the jury, we have some younger people. The average age is what, 50 something? And I think the defense was pushing for the oldest people possible, because older people tend to have that attitude that you talked about some jurors having, which is, hey, how could it be that bad if it was 11 years? A lot of younger people have been educated to realize that these things happen all the time, that, younger people seem to have more sensitivity to the idea of domestic violence, how it happens, how people get trapped in these situations. And so there are going to be 2 or 3 people in the jury who say exactly the thought that you had expressed earlier about what people in the jury are going to say. They're going to say it was 11 years, and how dare you? And like I said, for me, I think the prosecution's biggest hope here is not the sex trafficking charge, but the violations of the Mann Act, and basically having them so disgusted with the other thing that they're willing to do what it takes to say, hey, Diddy, you're going to go on for these 7 years for this Mann Act violation. And I would love to see what Attorney Ross has to say of how you get him out of that one. If there are receipts. And I can't imagine that the feds brought a charge without receipts.
I mean, I don't think that the receipts are going to be they're not helpful to Diddy, right? But the receipts have to be tied to him. And there's a lot of ways to get around that. But I'm telling you, this next late June, mid-June, when he gets to put his case on,
right,
is when things really going to heat up, guys. It's really going to
heat up like how?
Well, I mean, you get to call these people out, right? So when the government lists their witnesses, you find out who they are. You're going to send them subpoenas and bring them back in your case in chief if you want to, and you get to redirect on them. There's going to be a lot you get to do. You're really going to be able to destroy their character. I'm telling you, this panel is underestimating the value of character. I'm not saying Diddy's going to walk. I've said from the beginning, I think he's fried chicken. But
I don't think he's fried chicken for life sentence. I don't think he's fried chicken for life.
15-year min-man for him, that's life. He's going to get pardoned by Trump anyways.
Well, he might get pardoned by Trump, but think about it. If you're the judge, all right, and let's say they only get him for the technical violations of the Mann Act, hiring prostitutions, right, out for over state lines. How do you, as a judge, in this most high-profile case, in which we've heard all these things about the abuse of Cassidy, the abuse of the next women that come up that tell their even more horrible stories, do you give him the statutory minimum? Say, 2 years.
No, he's going to get a lot. He's going to get
everything. A lot. Right? If they get him for anything, he's getting the maximum sentence for whatever they can get him for.
I still think Trump's going to pardon him. I do. I firmly believe it. I haven't been wrong about guessing on a lot of this stuff. I think Trump's, if you look at, not to change the subject on you, if you look at Trump's pardons, a woman in Arizona took the money that they raised for her, a slain officer in that little town, $70,000. She was the congresswoman that raised the money, or councilwoman that raised the money for a slain officer. And instead of spending it on the statue that the people raised, she took it and got breast augmentation in cosmetic surgery for her and herself and her daughter. And Trump pardoned her. He doesn't have that type of moral compass.
Well, let's be clear, all right? If in Trump's defense, we do have to see how good was the surgery. Did Trump get to see it?
I don't even want to think about Trump's
trying to get flew out.
What is the point of the federal legal system if he is going to then do something like this? Let's talk really quickly before we round out the evening about the composition of the jury what that means. And then I also want to talk about the defense lawyer as well as the prosecuting lawyer. And the reason why I find this fascinating is because we know that former FBI Director James Comey's daughter is leading the state, right? She's leading the state, Maureen Comer. Now, her dad was a former FBI director. He is the one that brought down Jeffrey Epstein and was also a part of the Michael Jackson case. How important is that, and is her role as the prosecutor for the state?
Experience. Experience matters. Experience matters. That's what you say about that. Experience matters.
Well, on the other side, Diddy has hired the Menendez brothers' lawyer, Mark Geragos, how you say, whatever their last name is, Mark's last name, and his daughter, she is on Diddy's team, and she's the one all over TikTok sharing her thoughts.
Can I say something about this? Because people keep saying, you keep mentioning Mark Geragos. Mark Geragos was the Menendez brothers. They got life without parole. He was Peterson's lawyer. He got life without parole. All right, being Mark Geragos' daughter is a strike against her. All right, because he's tough. He can get on TV, but I would let him do my traffic ticket.
Didn't he represent Chris Brown?
And Chris Brown, yeah, but he probably got what Chris Brown do? He got convicted. I think he pled guilty or whatever. This man has never won a trial ever. All right, the only thing he won was a guest host spot on MSNBC. I don't know why. All right, but Mark Geragos sucks.
And so, Simone, tell me, why was it so important for Diddy to put a black male and a black female on his council? You're on mute, I guess.
Sorry, I think it's because he was going to do his best to get a jury that was diverse, and which he has. I think the jury has 5 whites and the rest are non-whites. And
four whites and rest are non-whites, yes.
Thank you, 4. And so by having attorneys that mirror and look more similar to the jurors, I think perhaps the hope was that the jurors would connect more with his attorneys than they would the pack of 6 white women that are the prosecutors.
6-pack of white women.
6-pack of white women.
You said 6-pack of white women.
6-pack of white women. So let me ask this last question before we wrap up tonight. We got really explored a lot of interesting stuff. What I want to know, though, is you have 4 whites, 8 non-whites, social workers, investment analysts, massage therapists, neuroscientists, nurse home aide. Does it take just one of them to not agree for Diddy to walk?
Or to get another trial? He'd have to be retried if it was a hung jury. And I don't think Diddy wants that, because they might keep him in jail until the next trial.
Oh, honey, good point.
They might.
So how likely is it that he could walk?
He's got to get all 12 to agree that he didn't do nothing wrong to that woman, that woman deserved that beating, and I don't see that happening at all.
But I also think if he gets a mistrial, it's even more likely that Trump will pardon him.
Or if he has a bad lawyer.
Or a technicality.
I don't. Is that the burden on that? Does it have to be?
What?
It has to be unanimous that they all agree. If you have one person
that does not agree, one person that says,
then it's
I
either,
don't. Yeah,
it's a hung jury.
Correct.
Right, exactly. Which means they can try him again, right?
Right.
They have to try him again. Correct.
Bill Cosby.
They don't have to.
Right, but they will.
They could.
They will.
Yeah. Exactly. I think the older people on the jury, is just hope, because we keep forgetting, if you're under 40, if you're a fetus, you think, all right, that Diddy has always been a bad person. You don't understand who Diddy was to us grown folks. All right. Diddy was so important. They depended upon him to try to win the 2004 election. Remember, they brought him out, all right, to be John Kerry's damn near running mate, vote or die. Vote or die. That's how big Diddy was. All right, Diddy was meant to be a responsible citizen.
I was on that fly around plane.
Absolutely, right? And so we keep forgetting that people my age, all right, thought that. Think about it, I know brothers who don't ever want to give their name to the government. All right, don't ever want to, but they went into the system because Diddy told them. All right, we lost that damn election, by the way, too. All right, but the point is that they got people out there who had to pay child support. All right, because they listened to Diddy on where to vote. like I said, he wasn't always a scum that people see him as now. And a couple of older people haven't been paying attention might still see Diddy, right, as somebody,
Miss Price, you're right. It was Rock the Vote that year. That year was Rock the Vote. That was very interesting. All right, everybody. Well, you heard it first here as we dissect the Diddy case. So what are we really witnessing here? Is this a legal reckoning or a long overdue unraveling of hip-hop's royal? Well, tonight's special episode pulled back the velvet rope on one of the industry's most powerful men, once a kingmaker in music, now defended in a courtroom fighting for his freedom. Whether guilty or innocent, the damage is definitely done. His empire definitely has a crack, and guess what? His name is tarnished. But this isn't just about one man. It's about an industry that has too often turned a blind eye to power abuse, women's silence, and money cleaning up the mess. America, we're not just watching a trial, we are watching history unfold. This has been Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. I'm Al Reynolds, your judge and host. See you next time when the gavel drops again and the truth keeps spilling. Tonight's court is now adjourned.